Hello, my name is Wendy Love Edge, and I'd like to welcome you to the Bulldozer Health Show. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Missy Cohen from New Beginnings to Health. Welcome to the show, Missy.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Missy, tell me a little bit about your background in education.
Sure. I have a master's in public health from Boston University, and I also am a health and wellness coach, and I've done training with Tracy Harrison through Wildly Successful Health Coaches in order to have a background in functional medicine so that I can truly help people get to the root cause of what their ailments are.
Wow. So, what is functional medicine exactly?
I'm so glad you asked. Functional medicine is when you take a whole host of symptoms, like we all know, like we might have a headache, we might have achy joints, we might have other, perhaps some IBS symptoms. But really what that all boils down to is our body telling us that something's wrong in one particular place. Mm-hmm. And functional medicine takes a look at all of those symptoms and pulls it all together and finds out where that root cause is, and then is able to address it from that root cause to reveal true healing.
Wow. So it's not symptom driven, it's getting to the root.
It's getting to the root,
Right.
Yes.
So with regard to women's health issues, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's really what the show's about. Applying that functional medicine model to women's health, if someone came to you and they were having some symptoms and issues, where would you start?
Oh, honestly, it depends on their symptoms and issues and concerns. One thing that we see frequently with women is that they're just plain tired all the time, right?
That's really true.
Right. Chronic fatigue.
Right.
And we take a look at that and see, okay, well, when did this start? Did this start when you had a child? Did this start when your dad died? Were you stressed out? It could be an adrenal issue that's causing this stuff. So we would, help the adrenals to get stronger through nutrition, which is huge, or we would address stress management. And we would take a look at the body itself and see if maybe there's an imbalance in their microbes that's causing the stress.
In their microbes?
In the gut, in the microbial people, the microbes, the little bacteria that live in the gut.
Oh, okay, the gut.
The gut
There's a lot of talk about the gut.
Yes.
That would be probably pretty important, because when the gut isn't healthy, that affects
Then
the
we're
whole
not
body,
healthy.
doesn't it? Right.
And almost always the problem goes back somehow to the gut.
Right.
It's really interesting, whether it's a yeast overgrowth or whether it's an imbalance. There's certain microbes, certain little bacteria that are supposed to be there. And when those things get out of balance, that's when we become unwell.
Okay. And so how does it differ for women, would you say? Is there something in particular that you look for, or how would that be, a different course that you might take?
So for women in particular, frequently what we see is men too, but more with women, is hormonal imbalances, right? As we age, our hormones shift. There's supposed to be a certain level of estrogen, a certain level of progesterone, our sex hormones, testosterone. Those should all be balanced, like on a seesaw. But because of the environment we live in, because of the foods that we choose to eat, sometimes that balance gets skewed. And we have either too low progesterone or too high of estrogen. It's called estrogen dominance. And when that happens, we can get things like the hot flashes that we experience. The weight gain around the middle is pretty common. Migraine headaches.
And those things can happen at any age, right?
Those things can happen at any age because that hormonal imbalance can occur. Like I said, it's things that we're exposed to in our environment. Some foods that we eat, such as soy foods, look like estrogen to our body. So even though our testing may not show that our estrogen's out of balance, our body thinks we're out of balance because of what we're being exposed to.
I see. So let's talk a little more about nutrition, because that's kind of I think it's the building block of health, really, what we put in our bodies.
Yeah.
If someone's experiencing these imbalances, let's say emotionally or physically, or hot flashes, where do you start with that?
Where do you start? It's interesting because very typically we start with elimination diet, because when they're experiencing adrenals, when they're suffering with some adrenal problems that's making them tired, and that can also throw off your hormones, is, again, all goes down to a root cause. So when you're releasing too much adrenal hormone, all your other hormones get out of balance because it's all a giant hormonal soup.
Okay.
So blood sugar, for example, if your blood sugar is off, you're releasing a lot of insulin. You're releasing a lot of insulin, which is a hormone. Your other hormones are going to get off as well. So a good place to start would be like eliminating gluten because gluten spikes our blood sugar.
There's a lot of talk about gluten in the news, isn't there? I didn't realize it spiked blood sugar, though.
Yeah. A slice of bread actually spikes blood sugar more than a tablespoon of table sugar.
Really?
Which is what they use as the baseline.
So people seem to get more concerned with whether they're, have an allergy to it, but it sounds like that might be more, I mean, the allergy is important, sure, but there's probably less people with, say, celiac disease or an allergy, and more people who might have this other issue.
So there's a difference here. Let's talk about that for a minute. There's food allergies and there's food sensitivities. And food allergies are what you see if somebody has a peanut allergy and they break into hives and their throat closes up. And that's a very strong, life-threatening reaction.
Sure, right.
Somebody could have a food sensitivity. For example, if I drink milk, I know the next day I will have a headache because that's how milk affects me. So that's a food sensitivity. It's not life-threatening, it's annoying, and I should probably avoid milk.
Right.
Because it's affecting my health.
Right. So for women with these hormonal imbalances, starting with eliminating gluten is a first place to kind of start, right? And then if by eliminating it, they see less of the imbalance, then that could be the culprit. Is that what you're pointing to? Or?
That could be a small piece of the culprit.
Okay.
Because, if we're providing our bodies with food that does not work for us, we're exposing it to food sensitivities. And that's another stress on the body. So our stressors could be emotional, they could be physical, such as giving ourselves the wrong food to eat.
Sure.
Right. So if gluten is a small piece of it, because another thing that gluten does is it causes what's called leaky gut. You hear that a lot in the news now.
Yeah.
And what that is that's the junctions in the small intestines. They're supposed to be really tight and closed up, but they open up. And when they open up, particles of our food actually get into our bloodstream and our immune system reacts to that. And that's what causes the food sensitivities.
Oh, wow.
So gluten in particular releases an enzyme that causes those junctions to open up. So that's why gluten is kind of the key one to start eliminating, because that you start eliminating that will start to heal your gut, but there's other things that have to be done along the way.
Sure. Other things like what?
Other things like you want to make sure that that's not only sealed up tight, but also that it heals up. There's a mucosal lining that coats our intestines. So you want to make sure that that's strong and in place. And you can do that with herbal supplements. L-glutamine is one. Slippery elm. DGL, deglycerized licorice root, marshmallow root. All these things help coat the intestinal lining and help build that mucus back up.
Marshmallow root, and those things also kind of help with stress a little bit, don't they? Or am I mistaken?
I'm not sure about that.
I think I've read some things about using some of those things also to help with sleep and that kind of thing. But it seems like things are all interrelated,
Yes, totally, of course. Yeah.
So if another topic that I wanted to discuss is menopause, because that's really a concern for women as they get older. And we're talking about hormonal imbalances, but so many issues come up, whether it's, emotional ups and downs or trouble sleeping, hot flashes. Where do you start with that?
That's a good question. Hot flashes are really interesting to me. I really am fascinated by hot flashes because I just learned not too long ago, actually, that hot flashes, everybody's like, oh, it's a hormonal imbalance, but it could also be a stress imbalance. So what that means is because cortisol is one of our hormones again, and it's also, besides being a stress hormone, cortisol is also used to control our blood sugar. So when we go to sleep at night, our cortisol should be really low. And our blood sugar tends to drop as we sleep. And if it gets too low, the cortisol kicks in. And when it kicks in, that can stir up a hot flash.
Oh, so interesting.
Isn't that? I thought that was really fascinating. Yeah. So, ways to avoid that are to make sure that your blood sugar doesn't drop during the night. And I don't really encourage people to eat a couple of hours before bedtime, but to have like a couple of slices of apple with some peanut butter, which helps it slow down the digestion, while still getting enough sugar into the system to try and keep it level during the night.
I have heard that before about eating late at night and trying to avoid that, but that sounds like you're really just keeping your body in balance and having a small amount to work with your body.
Exactly. You're not sitting in front of the TV chowing down on a bag of chips. You're just having a small, like half an apple before bed.
Right.
With some nut butter to help slow the digestion.
Sure. What a great suggestion.
Thank you.
So I could talk to you all day about these issues, but we're kind of going to wrap up. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
I would like to help people support sleep, because sleep is so important and it helps everybody, eat the right foods and stay in a good mood. So to support with sleep, I really recommend that people turn their TVs off, turn their screens off if they have a Kindle or anything like that. Turn that off a good half hour to hour before bed and do something to really relax and restore themselves, whether that's coloring or doing some meditation, maybe going for a calming walk. Taking a hot bath with Epsom salts is excellent before bed, but sleep is really key, and I like to push that one.
Yeah, it is really key, and I can relate to all that. I really try not to look at my phone, but I think that in our culture it becomes, you feel like you should check it right before bed, or even if you wake up, take a look at it. Yeah. So I decided actually that I'm going to not have it in the bedroom with me once I go to bed. I think that is a really good suggestion that you made, and something that that I've become aware of too recently for my own self. So,
excellent. Yeah. I'm proud of you for that. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. So Missy, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. They can reach me at newbeginningstohealth.com, www.newbeginningstohealth.com, or they can email me at newbeginningstohealth@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thanks again for joining me.
So, thank you for having me.
Bulldozer Health Incorporated is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and healthcare reform initiative. You can find us at bulldozerhealth.org. Take back your health, America.